Welcome back to my YouTube channel, where history and mystery blend into jaw-dropping revelations about rare coins you never imagined could be worth a fortune. Today, we dive deep into the extraordinary tale of a coin that has shattered records, baffled experts, and rewritten what collectors thought they knew about American currency. This isn't just any quarter, we're talking about a 1987 D quarter dollar, a coin minted in Denver and originally worth 25 cents, that somehow ended up being worth an astonishing $352 million. That's right, $352 million. Buckle up, because this story is unlike anything you've ever heard. It began in the unlikeliest of places, a remote mountain town in Colorado, where time seemed to have frozen somewhere in the late 70s. Nestled between towering pines and crisp mountain air, the town of Granby was mostly known for its proximity to ski resorts and its rustic charm. Nobody paid much attention to old coins there. That changed one summer day in 2023 when an elderly man named Calvin Reese, a retired machinist and lifelong tinkerer, stumbled upon an old lockbox buried beneath the floorboards of a shed on his late brother's property. Calvin had never been particularly interested in money, especially not coins. To him, money was a means to buy fishing gear, maintain his vintage truck, and occasionally treat himself to a meal in town. But the box was curious. It was sealed with a rusted lock, which Calvin pried open with a screwdriver. Inside, beneath faded newspaper clippings and yellowed receipts from the 1980s, sat a small coin pouch. It jingled with the sound of forgotten currency. Among the nickels, dimes, and pennies was a quarter that looked different. It wasn't the kind of different you see in commemorative coins. No flashy designs, no holograms, nothing modern. It was subtle. The quarter bore the usual 1987 date and a small D under the date signifying the Denver Mint. But the metal shimmered unusually in the sunlight, almost iridescent, like it didn't quite belong in this world. The weight was slightly off too. Calvin, who'd spent years as a machinist, noticed it the moment he held it. The sound it made when he flicked it onto the workbench was oddly melodic, not the dull ring of a common coin. Intrigued, Calvin took the quarter to a local antique shop run by Miriam Dorsey, a collector of all things obscure. She had an eye for rare finds and was known for having a nearly supernatural ability to appraise objects. When Calvin placed the quarter in her hand, Miriam's eyes widened. She said nothing for several minutes, scrutinizing it under various lights, inspecting it with her loupe, and comparing it against other quarters from the same year. Then she said, "This isn't just rare. It's not supposed to exist." Miriam pulled out a thick, dusty binder filled with mint records, coin catalogs, and collector's notes. According to everything she knew, no 1987 D quarter had ever been reported with the composition she was seeing. Standard quarters from that year were made of cupronickel. But this one, under her testing equipment, showed an entirely different composition, something that resembled a hybrid alloy that included trace elements of palladium, a metal far more valuable than gold, and completely alien to standard U.S. minting practices. What's more, when tested with a rare metal spectrometer, the coin emitted energy spikes inconsistent with any known coin. Miriam theorized, at first in jest, that it might have been part of an experimental minting process, or perhaps even exposed to unusual radiation. But the truth was, no known minting records documented anything like it. The Denver Mint had supposedly produced nothing beyond standard issue quarters that year. No anomalies. No tests. No prototypes. Miriam called in a friend from the University of Colorado's metallurgy department. Dr. Ian Caulfield had analyzed precious metals for more than 2 decades. When he examined the coin, he became visibly rattled. His tests confirmed the composition was like nothing he'd seen in a circulating coin. Beyond the alloy composition, there was a near-perfect micro-engraving beneath the bust of Washington, visible only under an electron microscope, bearing a strange numeric sequence, 1739 increment sigma omega 487. This sequence puzzled everyone. Calvin, Miriam, and Dr. Caulfield began researching it obsessively. The first part, 1739, turned out to be the year a secret society of metallurgists was founded in Europe, a group believed to have disappeared in the mid-1800s after their laboratory exploded under mysterious circumstances. The Greek letters suggested something alchemical. And the final set, 487, corresponded to a long-lost vault code mentioned in a declassified CIA document that had once detailed missing Nazi gold. The implications were staggering. Somehow, a 1987 D-quarter minted in Denver had been created using forbidden techniques, embedded with microscopic codes, and composed of precious elements not used in American coinage. Word spread quickly in niche online collector forums. At first, it was treated like a hoax. But once high-resolution scans and spectrometer data were leaked, collectors and historians began to take it seriously. Then came the bidding war. At first, a prominent coin collector from Dubai offered $2 million. That number jumped to $12 million when a Hong Kong billionaire entered the race. By the time major auction houses got involved, the story had become international news. The Smithsonian Institution made a public plea for the coin to be preserved in a national archive. But private collectors wanted it for themselves, believing the coin might hold clues to a much larger mystery. Rumors swirled of secret vaults, ancient societies, even government cover-ups. In September of that year, Calvin finally agreed to let the coin be auctioned at the Luxor Grand Auction in Monaco. Security was tight, with armored cars, encrypted documentation, and private security contractors overseeing the event. Bidding started at $50 million and within 20 minutes had surpassed $200 million. The final bid, $352 million, was made by an anonymous buyer represented by a private European bank. Calvin, now a multi-millionaire, donated a large portion of the proceeds to education initiatives in Colorado. He vanished from public life shortly after, choosing a quiet existence in a coastal town where he lived with his 2 dogs and spent his days sailing. But the story didn't end there. Within months of the auction, 2 more mysterious quarters surfaced, one in Argentina, and the other in rural Finland. Both were 1987 D-quarters with similar anomalous properties, though neither had the encoded sequence beneath the bust. This discovery only deepened the mystery. Were there more? Had someone been experimenting with coinage technology decades ago using secret techniques? Were these part of a lost government program? Or something even older? Researchers began combing through mint records from the 1980s. A whistleblower came forward claiming that in 1987, an unlisted room in the Denver Mint had been active at odd hours, manned by technicians who never appeared on payroll. Another claimed that shipments of rare metals were delivered but never documented. These stories were impossible to verify, but they added fuel to an already roaring fire of conspiracy and speculation. Documentaries were made. Books were written. Some called it the ghost coin because of its mysterious origin. Others dubbed it the Key of Washington due to its link with encoded messages and possible ancient secrets. The quarter that was once worth only 25 cents had become an artifact of mythological importance. Some believed it to be a map, an object created by those who knew secrets buried deep in the fabric of American history. Others believed it was a test from a shadow branch of the U.S. Mint, an experiment gone rogue. And still, others argued it was never meant to be discovered at all. That it had been hidden for a reason. To this day, the identity of the $352 million buyer remains unknown. The coin itself is rumored to be stored in a subterranean vault somewhere in Switzerland. Several expeditions have launched to find more of them, with amateur treasure hunters sweeping old mint grounds, abandoned mines, and estate sales in the hopes of striking similar luck. The tale of the 1987 D-quarter continues to captivate, mystify, and inspire. Not just because of its monetary value, but because of what it suggests, that sometimes, history is stranger than fiction. That secrets can be hidden in plain sight. That a simple coin, when crafted under unknown circumstances, can hold within it the power to change how we view everything, from numismatics to national secrets. And maybe, just maybe, the next time you find a dusty old quarter in a drawer or between the cushions of your couch, you'll pause. You'll look closer. You'll wonder. Because who's to say lightning can't strike twice? After all, if a 1987 D-quarter once sold for $352 million, then maybe, just maybe, the next one is out there, waiting to be found. Thanks for tuning in again. Keep your eyes open, your curiosity sharp, and remember, sometimes, the greatest treasures are the ones hiding in your pocket change. Next, 1988 $quarter coin, where truth, legend, and extraordinary finds collide. Today, we're diving into another unbelievable but true story from the depths of numismatic history. You might think you know everything about the quarter in your pocket, but we promise, you've never heard anything like this. Imagine a coin minted in Philadelphia in 1988, a simple $quarter that once jingled in pockets and sat unnoticed in vending machines, somehow rising to be valued at a staggering $592 million. This is the story of that coin, how it disappeared, reappeared, and changed everything we thought we knew about currency, lost history, and secrets hidden in plain sight. It all began not in a vault, a museum, or an auction house, but in a flea market just outside Allentown, Pennsylvania. Every Saturday, dozens of vendors lined the asphalt lots with their folding tables, selling everything from antique toys to broken electronics and boxes of forgotten junk. Among them was a retired postal worker named Clara Beale, a fixture in the community who was known for her sprawling table of odds and ends. She sold old costume jewelry, pocket knives, postcards, and an assortment of dusty jars filled with coins. Most people glanced over them, looking for silver dimes or buffalo nickels, but one man stopped and looked more carefully. That man was Derek Monroe, a 36-year-old high school history teacher who had recently gotten into coin collecting thanks to a student who showed him a misprinted penny during a class on the U.S. Mint. Derek wasn't an expert by any means, but he had developed a keen eye for unusual patterns, errors, and metal inconsistencies. That Saturday, as he sorted through Clara's jars, he noticed something strange about one quarter. At first, it looked like any other, 1988 on the obverse, with the P mint mark indicating Philadelphia. But when the sunlight hit it just right, Derek noticed a faint glimmer beneath the date. Something embedded in the surface metal, not visible at all angles, just a whisper of a shape, like an engraving that didn't belong. Curious, Derek bought the coin along with a few others for $2 and took them home. He didn't think much of it at first. But that night, under his magnifier lamp, he saw something that made his heart race. The faint shape under the 1988 date wasn't just a flaw in the metal. It was a micro-inscription, an almost invisible emblem that resembled a stylized map of North America, overlaid with a broken circle. Below it, almost imperceptibly, were tiny initials, JTL. He scoured his books, forums, and resources but couldn't find any mention of this marking on any quarter ever produced in Philadelphia. Intrigued, he reached out to the American Numismatic Society, sending detailed images of the quarter. Within days, he received a response from Dr. Angela Hardcourt, a numismatist specializing in minting anomalies. She requested to see the coin in person. When she examined it, she was speechless. Her first finding shocked Derek. The coin was not composed of standard cupronickel. A spectroscopic analysis revealed it contained platinum filaments woven into the nickel layer, a technique never used in U.S. mint operations and virtually impossible to replicate without sophisticated tools. But the greater mystery lay in the inscription. JTL was not a mint engraver. After weeks of deep research, Angela discovered a classified document from 1972 mentioning a covert project inside the U.S. Treasury Department called Operation Ledgerfall. The name Jonathan T. Larimore appeared several times in connection with it, a physicist turned metallurgist who was rumored to have developed anti-counterfeiting technology so advanced that it frightened members of the Treasury into burying the program permanently. What made this even more mysterious was that Larimore had vanished in 1988, right after a brief, unexplained employment period at the Philadelphia Mint. No record of his hiring existed, but a coffee-stained employee ledger listed his initials, the same ones found on the coin. Angela and Derek theorized that this coin had somehow been part of a suppressed test minting run, a technological marvel designed to be unforgeable. But only one specimen had ever surfaced. The media caught wind of the story, thanks to a leaked blog post by an intern working in Angela's lab. The response was immediate and massive. News outlets dubbed it the Ghost Quarter. Collectors, tech moguls, and even foreign governments were suddenly interested. The idea of a coin embedded with nearly indestructible security features from a secret Cold War-era program sent shockwaves through both the numismatic and intelligence communities. As interest grew, more pieces of the puzzle surfaced. A former Treasury contractor came forward anonymously, sharing that in late 1987, a directive came down ordering the creation of a low-denomination prototype containing encrypted cartographic insignia, intended to test public circulation of embedded geographic tags. The implication was staggering. The coin was more than money. It was part of an abandoned surveillance program that could track coin movements globally using satellite resonance and material-specific radiation signatures. The program had supposedly been scrapped before any coins went public. Yet here was Derek's quarter, clearly having escaped destruction, having circulated for decades unnoticed. The real question wasn't just how it had survived, but what else might still be out there. Auction houses around the world made their interest known. Bids began quietly, some in private, some public. An initial offer from a Russian oligarch was $20 million. A tech CEO countered with $65 million. But things escalated when a sovereign wealth fund from the United Arab Emirates declared they would pay $200 million for exclusive rights to the coin, believing its embedded technology could be reverse-engineered for future applications. That's when the United States government stepped in, the FBI, Department of the Treasury, and even representatives from the Department of Energy contacted Angela and Derek. They weren't threatening, but their tone made it clear, they wanted the coin. They offered compensation, protection, and discretion. But Derek refused, insisting the coin was legal tender and part of numismatic history that deserved to be preserved transparently. Amid rising legal pressure, Derek made a bold move. He consigned the coin to the prestigious Eldridge Sotheby auction in Geneva. The event, shrouded in secrecy, had collectors and governments alike attending through private channels. Security rivaled that of presidential summits. Bidding began at $100 million. Within 30 minutes, it had risen to $400 million. At one point, bidding paused when a power outage occurred in the room. When systems were restored, a new anonymous bidder entered the fray, offering $592 million, on the condition the coin never be seen again. Derek was torn. But with mounting debts from lawsuits and fearing for his safety, he accepted. The quarter was turned over in a sealed, armored transfer. Its new owner remains unknown, but the story didn't end there. Months later, anonymous tipsters claimed similar coins had surfaced in Romania, Japan, and Argentina. Each one bore different symbols, cryptic engravings ranging from mythological creatures to unknown alphabets. Experts now believe that Operation Ledgerfall had dozens of test coins minted globally, seeded through various channels to measure dispersal patterns, perhaps as a long-range surveillance experiment, or even a psychological test. Some say the coins were meant to activate in the presence of certain frequencies. Others believe they were tiny memory devices with embedded maps, fragments of a larger hidden message. Whether the 1988 P quarter was just one of many or truly unique remains unsolved. But one thing is certain, a coin once worth 25 cents became the most expensive piece of currency in human history, not just for its composition or age, but because of what it represented. A piece of buried technology. A ghost of Cold War paranoia. A hint of the extraordinary hiding in the mundane. And a reminder that sometimes, in the most ordinary of places, the unimaginable waits to be found, and so, the hunt continues. Across basements, estate sales, garage drawers, and old collections, the search is on. Maybe you've handled one. Maybe you passed it off as just another quarter. But if you look a little closer, inspect the date, turn it under the light, and spot something the average eye misses, you could be holding a piece of history worth hundreds of millions. Keep your eyes sharp. Keep asking questions. Because as this story shows, the past is never quite finished with us. And neither is the pocket change we so often ignore. Thanks again for coming back to the channel. We'll see you in the next unbelievable chapter. And remember, always check your change.